Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to ED&A. Looks like we got a good schedule today, and Senator Avard is here and ready to go, so we will open the hearing on Senate Bill 298. Welcome, Senator. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Senators. And for the record, I'm Senator Kevin Avard for District 12, and I am the prime sponsor of SB 298 FN. This is one of the bills that we put in late at the last minute through rules, and it's come to my attention that there's this topic basically needs some attention. In the analysis, you'll see that this bill requires sober living houses to be certified by New Hampshire Coalition of Recovery Residents, to verify residents' eligibility, and to retain a paid house manager. The bill provides enforcement authority for municipalities in which the house is located and to the Department of Health and Human Services. And the reason we brought this in is we're very concerned about sober living, and we want to make sure that this flourishes in the state. But at the same time, there could be certain people that are abusing the system. And I don't want the bill to be a bill that is basically picking up the weeds and hurting the tares through the weeds, if you will, a wheat. Meaning we don't want to get rid of the bad in order for the good, to destroy the good. So this bill was created, and I know there's going to be a lot of discussion on it. It might not be ready for prime time, but if you look at the bill, Section 1 basically talks about the definitions. Section 2, certification of requirements. Section 3 is about the resident eligibility verification. Section 4 is paid house manager requirements. And Section 5 is basically enforcement and compliance, penalties for non-compliance. And Section 7 is a transition period for existing non-certified sober living houses. And of course, then the effective date. But again, so we want to encourage people in sobriety. Most of you already know I'm 20 years sober as of December 20th, and never had to engage in anything like this, but I strongly support sober living, and whether it's from drugs or alcohol. I do support them, but at the same time, we don't want individuals using our system as a means for a gateway for drug trafficking, or disturbing the neighborhoods or violating local zoning laws. So it might need some work, and I'm okay if you re-refer it, but I know that we need to have a discussion about this, and I want the narrative to continue. I want people to know that we're aware of this. We want municipalities to start looking at this with a little bit more scrutiny, and I think this is a good start.
Well, thank you, Senator. I know this is a very important topic to you personally and to all of us for our state, and we appreciate you bringing this bill forward. Do we have any questions for Senator? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you, Senators. I appreciate it. And,
Joe Scully.
That sounds like a powerful name, Joe Scully. Baseball player.
May I provide
Please.
copies?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Well, good morning and welcome. Good to see you.
Good morning, Chairman Pearl and members of the ED&A committee. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this bill. For those of you who know me through my day job, this has nothing to do with that. I'm just here as a proud and somewhat concerned resident of Concord. So I do support this bill. Understand even if it doesn't move forward right now, I would love the opportunity to work with all stakeholders to get some good standards in place for sober living houses so that the residents of those houses are protected, as well as the members of the community where those houses are protected. So I'll start by just noting that there are a couple of articles in the material that I provided. One is a New Hampshire Public Radio piece back from 2017 titled "With No Oversight, How Sober is Sober Living in New Hampshire?" And I'll leave that to you to read, but Manchester fire chief is quoted in this article as talking about knowing where the sober living, or so-called, I'll say, because that's the reason why I'm here, is there are bad actors out there. There are folks who call themselves sober living houses, but really are not. And in both of these articles, the Manchester fire chief talks about knowing where these houses are. In the WMUR piece, he says, if I could, I would shut half of them down because they're violating fire code. It's not safe. Towards the end of the NHPR piece, it talks about the fact that 20 states have some form of standard and policy that these houses have to live up to, such as occupancy numbers, around-the-clock staffing, and required drug testing. Around-the-clock staffing, I think this bill speaks to that. Having a paid house manager, in my opinion, if you don't have a paid house manager, if you just designate one of the house residents as being the house manager, does that actually provide the structure and the leadership that folks in those houses need? Required drug testing, this bill does not even ask for that, but it does make a reference to the houses having a responsibility to check if the incoming residents either were in recovery or are in recovery. That I think is important because I think there may be some misunderstanding about our ability to pass legislation in New Hampshire. There's a thought that this is a federal issue, only the federal government can act on this. And because of what I just mentioned in that article in NHPR, I don't think that's true. To be sure, if we were to act, we have to do it in compliance with what is in federal law and federal regulation. I learned a little bit about this when I was before the Concord Zoning Board last summer regarding a petition for a special exception to operate a sober living house 2 doors down from where I live. The applicant admitted that he was seeking approval for something that he was already doing. And that all became known because of police activity in the area. The neighbors started working with the city and saying, you got to do something about this house. So they got brought in. The owner of the property sent his attorney, who threatened the zoning board and said, if you don't do this, I'll sue you in federal court, just like we sued Manchester in federal court. He pledged that they were certified. I have not been able to find any documentation of that being true, and I question whether it is because of the fact that on the Manchester lawsuit, a lawyer friend of mine said, let me check the court docket. He could not find a lawsuit on that court docket that this attorney had mentioned. Finally, the last two pieces in this packet is one of my neighbors during that process submitted a Freedom of Information Act request regarding police calls to the property. And there were none for 10 years before this entity owned the house. And then there was a great uptick in them since they began operating, including a call for an overdose and a call for criminal threatening, which I do not know for sure, but that may have been me. I had someone clearly under the abuse of a substance during a power outage in a snowstorm come into my yard while I was walking out to the car with my daughter and start threatening me, trying to fight me. So we just called the police and he was arrested. The final paper you see here is what I found on federal regulation. Just back to my point of we can act as long as it is in compliance with this. So that attorney had said, the reason he was going to sue was it would be an ADA violation. Recovering addicts are a protected class. But there has to be some proof proof of that. There is, from what I've found, there is no responsibility that a town or city has to make accommodations for active users, but we do for those who are in recovery. So that's what this bill seeks to do, is make the appropriate accommodations for those who need it. And I just want to be very clear, I have no animus whatsoever to those who are in recovery. I hope they don't feel that is the case, because it's not. But between my personal experience and these two articles and the Manchester fire chief saying there's no rules, he called it the wild, wild west. I think we can do better than that, and I hope that we will. The fact that 20 other states have something shows that states can act as long as they do it in compliance with the federal laws and regulations. And I will just conclude there by saying I hope that we can do that, and I would love the opportunity to work with anyone and everyone to get something good in place. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Joe. Again, as I said to the senator, this is a very important topic, and we really appreciate you bringing it up, and we will certainly have a further conversation on it, and we'll want you to be a big part of that. So,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
do we have any questions? Senator Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking my question. It sounds like you've delved into this pretty deeply, so I'll ask this question. I don't expect that you are confident in what I'm asking, but I'm looking at a bill before me that's in the planning and zoning section of the RSAs. Is there nothing that DHHS regulates, or the Office of Professional Licensure, or anything like that? Nobody's licensing DHHS, doesn't have any standards or that you can find?
So as you said, this bill, I think, is a work in progress. I think DHHS needs to have an enforcement role, because if there's no enforcement, then we almost haven't improved from where we are, right? So I think what we need is two-pronged. We need the houses to be certified by the appropriate organization. I understand there may be more than one organization who does that, and at this point I don't want to comment on which one or ones it should be, but I think what we need is certification from the appropriate entity, and from there enforcement by DHHS after the fact.
Thank you.
Just, we do have a member from DHHS here that will come testify if we have questions. So just for the benefit of the committee. Any further questions for Mr. Scully? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you coming in. Peter Nelson. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. How you doing, Senator?
Doing well, thanks.
I'm just here to represent. I'm an owner-operator of St. Christopher Sober Living, so we are an operator in the space. And when we saw this bill, my partners and others that I know in the space that are other owner and operators, were just a little bit concerned about some of the language in the bill. However, everybody agrees there needs to be some sort of oversight and certification process. To start off, we are NH Core certified, so that's the Coalition of Recovery Residents, New Hampshire. And a lot of these issues that have been raised today are sort of addressed in that certification process, from life safety issues to resident rights and good neighbor policies as well. So there is, most of the houses that we know of that are certified, of course, we know the certified houses are actually doing a great job. They've done a great job in the space. They try to hold a high standard. So that can vary from house to house, but in general, people have done a pretty good job. We just have some concern. All we're simply asking is that the committee hold the bill so we can do more work on it. There's a lot of issues that were raised today, and I think they're very valid. We agree that we want to make sure that there's validity in the space. Just a couple of things, just a couple of simple bullets that we wanted to raise. As far as like resident eligibility, for example, very few people want to go to sober living that don't have to go to sober living. It's a restrictive environment. There's rules, curfews. mandatory urinalysis, breathalyzers, mandatory 12-step meetings. So I think we just need to sort of work out the language on that, and there's nuances to that. For example, someone could be sober for a year, move out, do very well, and then struggle to live independently and may need to return because they don't have the structures and supports in their life. So they return to sober living. They may not have a discharge summary from treatment that's current. So we just want to make sure there's no barriers to services for people. But again, I think we can work that out in the language. The one big one that we looked at that I think we should take a look at is the definition of a sober house manager. And there's language in here that says, I think it's on page 2. I'm not really good at reading the structure of the format, but it's basically each sober living house shall employ a paid house manager that's not a former or current resident of the sober living house. Recovery is very much a peer-led movement. So if you go to 12-step fellowships, it's very much about the culture that's created in the, in that circle. And within sober living houses, typically, I'll speak for ours, someone who's come through and done very well. They're doing well in their recovery, their children are back, they're really just doing everything right in their life. They end up becoming a house leader. We call it a house leader. And typically they're compensated with room and board. The demand on them is actually not very high. It's pretty fair and equitable trade. But to have someone who's not part of the culture, I think could be harmful to the space. It's a big deal. So I think we have to just at least take a look at that. For us too, I think there should be a distinction between treatment and sober living also. So I think that could be a discussion I don't want to get into the weeds of that, but I think sometimes the sober living space is also used by treatment programs and I think there's a different standard. So I think that should be part of the discussion as well. And then the other thing we were looking at is record keeping. This is a non-clinical environment. So my other profession is I'm a clinician. So I'm a mental health counselor and I have a practice. And we're trained for record keeping and HIPAA and confidentiality. And I think there could be some barriers there. So just again, how do we work out some of those issues? Just to make sure that we're protecting client information and we're not setting an expectation on sort of non-clinical professionals how to manage that information. I think another thing too is this could put an undue financial burden on owner operators. There's not a whole lot of money in sober living necessarily. Most owner operators, there's a lot of costs involved. And I think to mandate an outside manager that's independent to the program might need some work in that area, what that would look like in the future. But in general, I think for us at St. Christopher's, we agree that there should be some sort of certification process that's pretty standard across the board because in our experience, most programs we know are doing a great job and they really try to live to a higher standard because we want that credibility. So I think it's important to take a look at. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to share today.
All right, thank you, Peter. And I guess you're willing to participate and be part of the group that's going to eventually probably assemble and have a discussion on this topic, based around this.
Yes, absolutely. And I've seen others here that represent NH Core and the other accreditation bodies. So I think just allowing them to work together with the state and other owner operators, I think, this would be a good bill.
Excellent, thank you. Questions from the committee? Senator Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking my question. Are any of your residents there by court order?
It depends. I think some do. Yes, absolutely. Some have been involved in drug court. Some are involved. Well, they may have had to go to treatment. Maybe that was court ordered. And then maybe the requirement was to follow all treatment recommendations, which would then include sober living following treatment. So in that sense, yes.
Follow-up?
Follow-up, sure.
Do you have any responsibility to the court to report back to them?
So we do have a relationship. So oftentimes, like parole or probation will call us. We have people that come from jail. And so we have a working relationship with case managers in the jail, in the prison. So we very much collaborate with them, and we have to maintain those relationships. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions? All right, seeing none, Peter, really appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you.
Anthony Anthony Salvucci? Got it. All right, I'm trying. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pearl.
You're very welcome. Welcome.
I'm Anthony Salvucci. I am the Director of Business Development and Community Relations at the New Hampshire Coalition of Recovery Residences. We are a certifying body in the state of New Hampshire. We were the state sole certifying body since 2017 until July of 2024. We are still going to continue to advocate and operate in this space certifying homes. In addition, we run ombudsman processes, which is a complaint resolution program, as well as housing assistance funds, in addition to our certification processes and education that we provide to sober home operators, as well as the leadership within those sober homes, which is pretty expansive and all part of the certification process and participation within NHCORE and our parent affiliate, NAR, the National Alliance of Recovery Residences. I rise before you today to echo both previous speakers. NHCORE strongly believes that there should be no bad actors in this space. These are people's children, parents, loved ones. I don't know of a family that I've ever met that doesn't have someone that is battling addiction or has battled addiction within. And we need to ensure that there's safe, ethically run homes in this state to ensure that these individuals not only build their foundation in that 28-day program, but have the opportunity to learn how to implement some of those changes as they progress forward into their independent living space. It's a good transition. Homes that are ethically run and run to the NHCORE standard have great result. And it is important to recognize that. We understand that there is a desire for the state to ensure that there are no operators out there operating without at least their knowledge. We understand the safety impact that this may have, as well as the resource allocation impacts that this may have, both on funding as well as just city operations for public service. And we want to ensure that you understand that we agree that there should be none of those operators in this space. But what we would like to see is the language as crafted be referring to a study group or a committee of some sort where all of the stakeholders have an opportunity to come in, work in collaboration to ensure that the bill that comes out, well, it's great to have it on paper. We need to ensure it's implementable, and also that it is, we can ensure that we can track progress and make sure that the homes are actually falling in line with said law. And some of the language is ambiguous enough that would make it difficult to ensure that they are reaching some of those benchmarks. So we would love to see this go into a work group. We would love to participate within that work group along with NHPRR and DHHS. This is about ensuring that folks have good, safe, stable, drug and alcohol-free housing with people that care to see them be successful in the long term. We will always be available for questions. NHCORE is just down the road and can be available at any time for you. I did bring a few copies, 6 copies of our certification standards through the National Alliance of Recovery Residences, as well as some other information that just explains NHCORE's processes and our service lines. And again, I can always follow up to answer any questions or concerns, or Dawn, who is our certification specialist and always willing to communicate, is available to this body.
Thank you, Anthony. We appreciate your testimony and certainly appreciate your willingness to participate as we go forward. I know there'll be a lot more conversation on this. Questions from the committee? Senator Reardon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking my question. So you derive your standards from the National Alliance of Recovery Residences.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a private organization? Is that a quasi-governmental what authority is that? Is it something that somebody just got together and put together this business model?
Yeah, that was a grassroots movement as well. And then they began to, they achieved their nonprofit status, began to build a good product, and then began to work with SAMHSA, with DHS at the federal level, as well as some other federal organizations, to craft these certification standards, and they continue to do that. And then in addition to that, they review them annually down at the summit, in which they educate and inform all of the state affiliates how any new requirements or new changes to the standards. So we do collaborate with federal and local.
Follow-up, thank you. But you're a private industry organization.
Correct.
Good, thank you.
Further questions? All right, seeing none, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you. And who should I leave this?
Give them right here. We have a fine young team here. All right, Laura Wargo.
Hello. I'm Laura Wargo. I am the Director of New Hampshire Partnership for Recovery Residents. Our organization was awarded the contract through DHHS as of July 1 to certify homes for the state of New Hampshire. Wanted to just state that we are in agreement with some of the testimony that's been provided today. So we certify homes under SAMHSA's best practice. We have developed standards that are specific to New Hampshire and have undergone several months of a process of collaborating with community partners, state agencies, substance use providers, as well as operators to develop standards specific for New Hampshire. We are in the contract with DHHS, and through that, we do have a grievance process in which we provide weekly reports. Members of the community, residents of recovery homes, as well as municipalities are able to report concerns, and then we investigate those and report back directly to the state. We agree that there needs to be some level of oversight and really addressing bad actors that may be existing. As far as certifying homes, we are seeing that they are well run, they are efficient, they are addressing substance use concerns. Many states have actually moved towards a mandatory certification process or have pending legislation similar to this. So the state of Virginia, as well as the state of Maine, Ohio has already implemented a mandated certification process. New Jersey and Arizona actually require licensing of recovery homes. And so we are here. We would love to work in collaboration on this to get language that is agreeable. We do want to find something that supports small businesses, that would reduce financial impact to our smaller operators, as well as really respecting people's pathways of recovery and where they are in sort of their length of sobriety or recovery journey. And sort of echo that there are many people that are in recovery homes that are not right out of treatment and that may need support through a community and want to come back into that environment, and that actually can really reduce the rates of returning to use. And so really respecting all pathways and periods of sobriety is pretty critical. So we would love to collaborate and find language that would be palatable for everybody.
Well, thank you for your testimony. Again, we appreciate your willingness to participate in further discussions, and certainly appreciate the work that you're doing currently. Questions from the committee?
Thank you.
All right, seeing none, thank you. Jake Berry? Good morning, good to see you again.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, honorable members of the committee. My name is Jake Berry. I'm the Vice President of Policies, New Futures. As many of you know, New Futures is a nonpartisan, nonprofit health policy and advocacy organization. We've been working for nearly 30 years to address issues around substance misuse and behavioral health in our state, including many years of working to support and advance recovery housing. We don't have a formal position on this bill. Certainly, we share the concern that there are bad actors out there that are undermining both the health and well-being of people in recovery and our recovery housing field as a whole. Similarly, we do share the goal. We think that mandatory certification really could be an important step forward in weeding out bad actors and protecting the health and safety of the recovery community. We do have some concerns, as others have expressed, about some concerns and questions about unintended consequences the bill as drafted could bring around the financial sort of viability and operations of these houses. We very much appreciate that you are willing to take some time to look into this issue. As you know, as you've heard, this is a really complicated, sensitive issue. People in recovery are considered a protected class under the ADA. We need to be thoughtful and intentional to make sure that as we approach mandatory certification, that we are staying in line with both the ADA and federal fair housing law. However, as Laura mentioned, as Ms. Wargo mentioned, there are many other states that are figuring out how to do this that we may be able to model. And again, we do feel like if we're able to get this right and find a solution that fits New Hampshire, this really can be an important step forward. So like others have said, we're very eager to sit down, work with Senator Avar, work with yourself to come up with something that works for us all.
Awesome. Thank you for your testimony, Jake. Any questions? All right, seeing none. Brody. Zach, can you check and see if there's another sheet there? Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm back. I'm here every day, 9 to 4 this week. It's good to see you all again. My name's Brody.
I just love the State House.
I do. I can't, I miss you guys when I go home, so I have to come back immediately the next morning. My name's Brody DeShays. I represent the New Hampshire Municipal Association, and we are currently neutral to the bill as written. However, we're very supportive of the concept, and we think the bill is actually a lot closer to prime time than as some have indicated this morning. I do want to flag specifically 4 different sections, and I'll go through them one by one. First is line 1, specifically new chapter planning and zoning. This is primarily a planning and zoning bill. So I know we've talked a lot about this as regulatory and how DHHS would be impacted and different oversight, but ultimately this is going to be placed into chapter 674, and you can see it's actually creates a -A, but this is a planning and zoning bill from our perspective, and one that is necessary for many municipalities to have some level of oversight over these types of land uses. On page 1, lines 15 and 16, we do have a concern with that Roman 2, where it says non-certified sober living houses shall not be eligible to apply for or receive zoning exceptions, variances, or waivers under state or municipal law. We do think that there might be some compelling interest for zoning boards to allow a variance for sober home or some congregate living situation to happen in a zone where it's not permitted. On the following page, page 2, lines 6 through 9, it says municipalities shall require proof of certification, resident eligibility verification, and house manager employment, as conditions for granting zoning approval or other permits related to the operation of a sober living home. We think this should be specifically a may. So municipalities have the option. We also think municipalities should be able to have a fee to cover any of those administrative costs for having to collect all that information. And then under lines 20 through 28, the new section 674-A:7, we think there should be some language included there where there should be a requirement to get a variance, should a variance have been needed in the zoning district where the sober home operates. Especially this is necessary if it's a congregate living situation, which is a change of use, or also if it's commercial, if it's being operated by a nonprofit or a for-profit entity, which does happen with sober homes. I want to flag too that a subcommittee of the House Municipal and County Government committee, they met and they made a recommendation against House Bill 432, which would have mandated sober homes in all residential zoning districts. So there's been a push to allow congregate living situations by right, specifically when they are being utilized as a sober home in all residential districts. And our position is that that should be a local control issue. There are places in the state where that makes sense as a permitted use in their zoning districts, or it makes sense to allow for a variance. And there's an interest, though, when a variance is applied for, to add a contingency. Specifically, some of the biggest issues tends to be parking. When you have about 8 unrelated people living in a congregate living situation, they're all probably going to need cars to be able to drive themselves to work, and there needs to be adequate parking so it doesn't impact other residential dwellings. And also additionally, septic system capacity can become an issue too if it's not on water and sewer. And so you might want to have a contingency for them to increase the number of bedrooms for their septic. So for all those reasons, we're currently neutral, and we'd like to see the legislature move forward with this bill and to make those changes so then it can be more easily operable for municipalities.
Thank you for your testimony. I suspect this bill's going to be around a while and have some work done on it. And I assume the municipal association will be willing to come in and help provide those suggestions as things move forward.
100% we can provide language too.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Questions from the committee? Seeing none? Thank you.
Thank you.
So we do have a member from DHHS here who will come up if we want for questions. Does the committee have any questions they want to ask? Yeah. All right. I think we're okay right now. We appreciate you being here. We're definitely going to want you part of the conversation as we go forward. All right. That's all I have on my list. Is there anybody else that would like to testify on Senate Bill 298? All right. Seeing none, we're going to close the hearing. Thank you all. Just for the benefit of those here, we are going to have to exec this bill later. Because it isn't that bad. Okay. Sure. All right, I'm going to introduce the next bill, so you're going to have to take this. Well, it's nice to meet you here. Yeah. 2 days in a row. All right, folks, we gotta open our next meeting, so if you want to have a conversation, I'm just gonna have you move to the hall. Good to see you again. Thank you for coming. Morning, Mike.
Good morning. Let's open the public hearing for Senate Bill 302 and introduce the prime sponsor, Senator Pearl.
Good morning, fellow members of the committee. For the record, my name is Senator Howard Pearl from Loudon. I live in District 17. I live in Loudon. I represent District 17. I am here this morning to introduce Senate Bill 302 requiring background checks for solid waste facility owners. Some of you may remember this bill from the past. This is the third year in a row or the third time I've introduced this bill. I don't know, is it 3 in a row, Mike? I can't remember, but we've been trying to get this completed so that we can have the appropriate background check for solid waste facility owners in place. We've had 2 earlier versions that we thought we had it right, and each time we've run into some problems in implementing it. So we are here for our third and hopefully final time of making the changes necessary to get this done. And so I would appreciate your support, and I know Director Wimsatt is here to kind of explain the details of the changes that we're making this time. So thank you.
Thanks, Senator Pearl. Questions from the committee? Seeing none. Director Wimsatt. Good morning. Welcome back.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mike Wimsatt. I serve as Director of the Waste Management Division for the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. Appreciate the opportunity to come and testify in support of Senate Bill 302. As Senator Pearl indicated, this has been a little bit of an unexpected journey for us trying to get this language right, and I very much appreciate his patience in taking another bite at the apple when we need to. So as he referred to, back in prior to the 2023 legislative session, it came to our attention in consultation with the Department of Justice that there were some problems with the language. These criminal records checks, which have been in statute for many years and been required for both solid waste and hazardous waste facility permit applicants, and had been used without incident, as far as we know, for many years. They go through a national criminal records database. And over time, the FBI has become very specific, in particular, about the language, the underlying statutory language that gives states or departments authority to conduct these checks. And when we learned that it wasn't passing muster, we went in 2023, and Senator Pearl was kind enough to sponsor a bill. We thought we had it right, and it turned out we didn't. So last year, we actually needed to make some changes because there were some drafting errors, and that's what last year's bill was about. But what we've learned since is that the actual underlying language and the structure is just not satisfactory to the FBI. It's been a little frustrating, candidly, because they won't. It's sort of like they'll tell us when we're wrong, but they won't tell us how to do it right. So Attorney Josh Harrison from the Department of Justice worked many hours and worked closely with our Division of State Police to try to make sure we got this right. And I think it's good to note that some of the key changes that we think help to address the concerns that the federal authorities had was it needs to be very clear who is subject to these criminal records checks. And this language, it gets very specific about who that is, how they're defined, various types of officers for companies and partnerships and corporations. We've nailed that down, so that I think is very clear now. It was also important to identify which specific officials at the department were authorized to receive the criminal records that are done as a result of that are produced as a result of the checks. So now the language in this bill will make that very clear. And then last of all, our process, I think they had some trouble with our process because for years we went through the Department of Justice to do this, and they actually coordinated the search. That was actually not that helpful. It was creating confusion and apparently gave some concern. So basically what this new process will do under this bill is take the Department of Justice out of this. So when an applicant comes to the department, the DES, for a permit application, they will identify, based on the language in the law, which of their officers and directors or managers are required to provide an authorization for a criminal records check. They will fill out in the appropriate form that the Division of State Police provides, and their fingerprints directly to DES. We will then, and it's clear that we'll need to make sure that we manage their information confidentially throughout the process. And then that will be provided to the Division of State Police by DES. They will do the check and then go through the FBI for the criminal information system check. And then once those records are produced, they will be produced to specific positions at DES for review, and then maintained until the permitting action is complete and any appeals are exhausted, and then those records will be destroyed. So it's a very specific process that's laid out here. I apologize, it covers two statutes, RSA 147A and 149M for hazardous waste and solid waste respectively. So there's a lot of language there. And I will note, and I haven't even had a chance to talk with Senator Pearl about this because I, late last night, identified a handful of mostly typographical problems with the language. So I would like the opportunity to prepare an appropriate draft amendment for the Senator's consideration before the bill is exec. But none of those changes are particularly substantive. They're basically just typographical and some omissions that were accidental.
Well, unfortunately, Director, we have to exec it this morning because it has an FN on it. So there's a second way we can do this. You're welcome to prepare the changes that you need. I can introduce a floor amendment, or you can just do it in the House.
Okay.
Either way will work, and the House may be easier if you choose to go that way, but I'm
Sure.
open to either way. But we do have to exec it out of committee this morning.
Well, given that we've been at this 3 times, I want to make sure we get it absolutely right. So I think, at your pleasure, I think we'd be happy to do it in the House.
Okay.
That'll give us time to make sure everything is locked down appropriately.
That will buy you a little time. So,
Thank you.
do you have any questions from the committee? All right. Well, thank you for the thorough explanation, and I appreciate your diligence in making sure we get it right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Anybody else who would like to testify on Senate Bill 302? Zach, nothing over there? Oh, we got one here. Christine, did you want to testify? Only if you need, all right. I think we're okay. All right. Thank you. With that, then we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 302. All right. Senator Waters, oh, he is here. Senator Waters, we'll bring you up and we'll open the hearing on Senate Bill 195. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, Senator David Waters, District 4, to introduce Senate Bill 195 relative to reporting requirements for the New Hampshire Advisory Council on Career and Technical Education. And you have been passed out an amendment that I'd like to speak to that came from some further discussions with the directors of the CTEs and with the state director, Jeff Beard, and with the commissioner. Just a little bit of background before I go into the actual reporting changes that we have in this legislation. This advisory council was about 10, 12 years ago now. Representative Ladd and I and others started to work on trying to improve access to career and technical education, and I think we've made huge progress over the last decade. The system is really robust, doing well, enrolling a lot of students and preparing our workforce. Over time, the advisory council, which you will see how the broad membership of it, including trade representatives and industry representatives and other folks, has accomplished many of the things that were in the original reporting requirements and dealt with and passed legislation and got budgeting for certain of the matters there. So we thought it was time to take a look at, looking forward, what is it that we will need to be doing on the advisory council. And so let's change the focus and the reporting requirements to reflect that. One thing in particular I will mention in the efforts on career and technical education, we get funding from the Perkins funding from the feds to help support the renovation and construction of career and technical education. And so the 21 centers around the state, about a 20-year cycle, provide monies to local school districts to fund the renovation or construction of CTE centers. And then there's other funding from federal sources available as well for if a particular program comes up, like we started a new marine trades program up in Wolfboro. And so this makes it possible to have also to respond to the market needs. There has been a lot of discussion about how we handle that funding, and particularly if it's possible to have partnerships with the community college system so we could build joint facilities. And there was a special committee that was set up to study that last year. So you'll see in this bill as well, there's an emphasis now in coordinating with that committee through this advisory council. So that said, by way of background, you'll note on page 2 of the amendment, here's the heart of what the amendment is about in terms of the duties of the council, access and delivery of CTE programs, recruitment and retention of skilled CTE teachers, which has always been a huge issue because so many of them can make much more in the trades or the industries they're working in. We actually have made some moves so that they can come in out of the trade and have a certain number, have a mentor and have a certain number of years before they have to get their required certification as an educator. Particularly in D, want to focus the potential for partnerships with the community college system of New Hampshire with the dual and concurrent enrollment programs. We are really looking to blend what happens in 10 through 12 in the high school and the 2 years of community college. A lot of success there, and how to enhance access and student-centered rules, and then the renovation committee, which I mentioned as well. And then importantly too is we've had a renewed emphasis on metrics annually to look at the metrics and the goals, see just how we're doing, what populations are being served, what kind of problems of access there may be. And then now that we're in the era of dual enrollments, want to make sure we get good metrics on that program as well. And then always keep an eye on a number of industry-recognized credentials, because that's the real purpose of career and technical education, that they end their program in high school, or they're ready to go into the community college and do what additional work they have to do to get that into industry credentialing. Then what you'll see down below then on lines 33 is we've eliminated the kind of laundry list of things in the annual report and just said the annual report's going to cover what I just went over. So those are the changes in the bill. It's a great council functioning well. Have our next meeting next Monday to talk about metrics and things. So you're always welcome to come see us at work, but this will help us do our work better. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I will check my schedule and see if I'm available. Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any questions for Senator Waters? Well, thank you for bringing the bill.
Thank you.
That's great. Anybody else that would like to testify on Senate Bill 195? Nothing there? All right. Seeing none, we'll close the hearing. And we will open the hearing on Senate Bill 198 and bring Senator Waters back again.
How nice to see you again.
Good morning. You look familiar.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committees. I'm still Senator Waters
I'm
in
not sure you
District
actually
4.
had to get up.
And it really is my great pleasure to introduce Senate Bill 198, declaring the third week in September to be New Hampshire Service Dog Week. This was brought to me by a constituent who will be speaking to you in a moment. And, you know, the bill, just in terms of the construction of it, is just the way we do these things, that we will declare a Service Dog Week, and the governor will issue a proclamation about it. But that really doesn't get to the heart of the matter. What we want to do is recognize the profound impact that service dogs have on the lives of individuals in New Hampshire, individuals with disabilities, enhancing their independence, mobility, overall quality of life. And we want to invite the governments, communities, and people of the state to observe such week with appropriate ceremonies and activities. And I think how important it is that we increase awareness of the functions of service dogs and the good that they offer to our community, their incredible contribution, and honor the dedicated individuals who train and care for these remarkable animals. And the range of things that service dogs do is just extraordinary. Some of you may know about the book about Ellie Shaheen, who has the service dog who saved her life many times because it can detect blood sugar issues for people with serious diabetes and so much else. So here it is to celebrate the profound bond between service dogs and the individuals they serve. We chose this week because September is the National Service Dog Month, and thought that it would be, I looked in the calendar of what we do with other proclamations and so on, and I thought that we would, of course, want to have it in September, and this is the week that made sense. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman, but there are folks here who can tell you a whole lot more about life with service dogs.
All right, well, thank you, Senator. Questions from the committee? All right. Jeff? Okay, seeing none?
I do have a question.
You have a question for Senator Waters?
Believe it or not, yes.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator. Thank you for bringing this bill. Service dogs are super important to me and my family. The only emails I've had on this is which week to pick. And so maybe some folks behind you can...
Pardon?
Maybe some experts behind you can speak to this, which week to pick, because there's the National Service Dog Month in September. There's another week in August.
Oh.
And so...
Yeah. Yeah, so on line
all I'm
6.
asking. I mean, maybe somebody else will speak to that.
Line 6. The governor shall proclaim the third week of September.
Correct.
And we went with September because that's the national month that the advocates here brought forward. I know there's August that other folks.
And we've had some correspondence.
Yeah,
about
and
that.
I responded back to that correspondent and explained why we've chosen this, and that seemed to be an answer.
And there's some consensus on that.
Pardon?
And there's some consensus on.
Well, I explained why
passing.
we were doing what we were doing, and that seemed to be understood.
Okay, I'd love to hear the other folks.
Yeah, but it was interesting, you know, I got that too, and I responded right away and said, well, this is what the advocates brought forward, and by the way, the one that we generally recognize is the September month,
I
so.
did see that correspondence.
It was very close anyways. I think it was like
Yeah.
third week
Yeah.
of August or something. I mean, one of my high school classmates was a service dog user and the first blind individual to
Yeah.
climb Mount Everest,
my.
and he's pretty well known for it, Eric Weinmeier.
Oh, my goodness,
And
how extraordinary.
anyways, and there's other folks close to me that are.
And thank you for bringing up that letter. I had meant to mention it, but this is, you know, I responded to that person, and this is why we went with this.
Okay.
But it's the wisdom of the committee, as always.
Further questions? All right.
Thank
seeing
you.
none, Thank you. All right, Brendan. Bring Brendan up.
Good morning.
Good morning, welcome.
My name is Vernon Madden, and I am from Dover, New Hampshire. And I am the founder and chairman of the New Hampshire Coalition for the Support of Service Dogs. We are a nonprofit committed to advocacy and education about service dogs, as well as providing financial aid to residents of New Hampshire for their service dogs' veterinary bills. Service dogs were first trained for wounded veterans of World War I. And since the early days, they have continued to be trained and provide assistance to people of all walks of life and disabilities. It is important to note that service dogs are recognized by the Americans with Disabilities Act, whereas emotional support dogs are not accorded the same protections and legal standing. A New Hampshire Awareness Week would help people differentiate between emotional support dogs and service dogs. It would also help to show people the beneficial services they may provide to themselves or individuals who might need them.
Well, thank you for your testimony.
And going back to your question, I think the month of August is International Service Dog Awareness Month.
Okay. All right, do we have any questions from the committee?
Thank you.
All right, well, listen, thank you for coming in. Thank you for your testimony. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Laura Barker from Hero Pups. Good morning, welcome.
Well, thank you. I feel very official. So I'm here to support this because I started a nonprofit that trains psychiatric service dogs for veterans and first responders, and we also train facility comfort dogs. Very large difference. I would love to see this happen because the educational component is needed. Being able to use that week as a way to educate town employees, business owners, and the like of what the rights are. I probably spend 20% of my volunteer hours educating the public and businesses that are calling, asking what to do about fake service dogs. We've all seen them. We all know what's happening. There has to be some more dialect, and I'm hoping that most of the time those fake service dogs are being presented for lack of education. So this week would help give us that platform. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? All right, thank you. So we have 4 other folks who've signed in. Did any of you want to speak or just want to be in support? Did you want to speak, sir? Come on up. Absolutely. Come on up and please give us your name and more importantly, your name of your dog. It's beautiful.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicholas Goulet. I come from Somersworth, New Hampshire. This special friend her name is Nisa, and she actually came from a company, Hero Pups, with Laura. When I was very young, I lived next to the fire station. The whistle would go off, and I knew that I wanted to be a firefighter. It was just something about it. And fast forward to 2018, and I received an injury on the job. Very traumatic. And then March 1st, 2019, I had a coworker pass away on the job, the same job that I should have been at that day. He was filling my shift for me, and it was something I could not get over. My career as a firefighter was done, and I needed to get treatment for mental health, PTSD mostly. Went to a program in Vermont, and while I was there, I met, or I heard about this company, and I put in for this, for the dog, and it was a process, application and interviews and so on and so forth. But she's changed my life. She's given me purpose and hope, and she's all over the place right now, but she is incredible. This awareness week is exactly correct. There is a difference between service dogs and emotional support dogs, or just dogs in general that want to be with their friends. Lisa, come here, please. So I think this would be a great opportunity to have awareness and teach other people and so on and so forth. So, yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming and sharing your story. Thank you for your service and for many years in the fire department. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Certainly sorry to hear about the reason you are here, but we appreciate it. Any questions from the committee?
All right, thank you,
Thanks so
guys.
much. Anybody else want to speak? All right, with that then, we're going to close the hearing on Senate Bill 198. I do not see Senator Ricciardi. Kevin, have you heard anything from Senator Ricciardi? Zach, could you do me a favor? Could you run down to Senator Ricciardi's office and see if she's here yet? She's... Oh, she's here right now. All right. We were just coming to see if you were here.
I've been here, but they said that you were running behind.
We are within 5 minutes, so.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, with that, we will open the hearing on Senate Bill 184 and recognize Senator Ricciardi. Good morning and welcome to ED&A.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm Denise Ricciardi, State Senator District 9, representing 13 beautiful towns from Bedford to Hinsdale. So I'm going to give you a little back history on this bill, Senate Bill 184. It's Environmental Children's Health Day. I've been before you before. Every year, we pass it unanimously in the Senate, and every year the House kills it. Baffling to me why. But long before I ever thought I would be a state senator, I did a resolution for this specific Children's Environmental Health Day. It is done in many other places, and it's always held the second Thursday in October. And it's to bring awareness for the health of children and help educate them on exposure to pollution and chemicals and eating healthy and water. And it's very important to me. And when I did the resolution, every year Governor Sununu would sign it. And so I thought, let's just make it a day and the schools can acknowledge it and help the children, and then I don't have to do the resolution every year. And I'll read my official, briefly read it to you, but children's health is deeply influenced by the environment in which they grow up, from the air they breathe to the water they drink and the products they interact with daily. Exposure to pollution and harmful chemicals has been linked to serious health issues, including developmental disorders and long-term chronic conditions. Senate Bill 184 seeks to address these concerns by establishing Children's Environmental Health Day on the second Thursday of October each year in New Hampshire. This designated day will serve as an opportunity to raise awareness and encourage proactive steps to safeguard children from environmental hazards. By establishing Environmental Health Day, New Hampshire demonstrates its commitment to protecting the health and future of its youngest residents. This bill not only raises awareness, but also promotes meaningful action, ensuring that children across the state have the opportunity to grow up in a cleaner, safer, and healthier environment. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any questions from the committee? Well, let's hope this year you're successful in getting it all the way through to the end.
Thank you. I will add that the Department of Health and Human Services reached out to me and said, please put the bill in again. It's really important. And I said, I will do my best.
Awesome. Well, thank you for bringing it. Anybody else? Becky, did you want to speak?
What's that?
Did you want to speak?
No.
Just in favor, okay.
Very new to these processes, just observe great support.
All right.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on 184?
I'm here, so my name is Karen Kraber. I'm here from the Environmental Health Program at the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services.
Do you want to come up and address the committee? Sure, come on up. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning. My name is Karen Kraber. I'm the administrator of the Environmental Health Program at the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. I'm just here to answer any questions if there are any.
All right.
And happy to speak to, activities at the department that promote children's environmental health.
Sure. Do we have any questions from the committee? I think we're okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming over. Anybody else that would like to testify on Senate Bill 184? Seeing none, we will close the hearing. We've got about 6 minutes until we can open the next one, so I'll take a motion to go into exec. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Is the committee ready to act right on this bill we just heard? I still have the folder open, Senate Bill 184. Do we have a second? Children Environmental Day? Sure. The one we just heard? Sure. All right, moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion? Well, I think it's a good bill, and in the past, the Senate has taken a positive position on this bill, and I'm glad we can again. And hopefully, I wish Senator Ricciardi luck in getting this all the way through, and I appreciate her bringing the bill in. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Senator, do you want this, Senator Ricciardi, do you want this on consent, or do you want to speak to it on the floor?
Maybe it would be helpful if I spoke to it for the other side. What do you think?
I don't think you'll have an issue on the Senate side, but it's up to
All
you.
right, then just put it on consent to save us all time.
All right. Do we have a motion for consent? Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any volunteers take this one out?
Sure.
All right, Senator Gannon will take it out.
Service dogs.
We have 3 bills we have to act on today, but we will have time to act on more, so we can do service dogs, sure. If we're all ready to. That was 198. Do we have a motion on 198?
I'll to pass.
I'll second. We have a second? Senator Reardon, okay. Discussion.
I'll just say it's definitely a worthwhile recognition of service dogs, for sure.
I'd just like to add that the Merrimack County Jail serves as a first step for the puppies when they're And the program not only is unbelievable for the service dog that results for some needy individual that needs a service dog, but it has an incredible effect on the inmates who are assigned a dog and given responsibility for it, and are really sad to see the pup graduate from the program because they bond with them. So
Wholeheartedly agree.
a dual purpose. Laura was actually the representative that brought him to our jail.
It's so worthwhile, even just to give a little bit of education on the difference between service and emotional support and all that. And I really don't want to take away from either side, but there are a lot of business owners that struggle with that and things, but frankly, one's maybe a little more important than the other. But either way, it's a good idea, and I'm glad we're picking a week, and it's also important to me personally, so it's really good. And if you get a chance to look up Eric Weinmeier, it's a pretty impressive guy. So
Further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Do we want this one on consent?
Move consent.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Senator McGee, would you like to take this one out?
Sure.
Awesome.
I have 179's amendment.
Well, we've got 3 more minutes until I can gavel in on my next one, so. Sorry, Senator, I should have gone a little bit quicker.
Can I pass them
All right,
that way?
179 is one of our FNs that we have to do today, and we have an amendment. What's that?
An unapproved amendment, 0749S.
Do we have a motion on 179? Move on to pass, all right. Senator Reardon moves on to pass. Do we have a second? I'll second. And Senator Reardon, you want to offer amendment 749?
749S, correct.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, second. Senator, you want to speak to your amendment?
Thank you. This was Senator Gray's bill brought at the request of New Hampshire Housing, the Community Development Finance Association, and there was a third one, Business and Economic Affairs. And it's to administratively attach the Housing Stability Group to the Department of Health and Human Services. There wasn't a ton of testimony. Katie Easterly Marty came in and talked to us about it. And then she and New Hampshire Housing realized after the fact that they needed to make a few changes, which you're seeing on the amendment here. Section 1 stays as is. Section 2 on the State Council of Housing Stability, increasing the landlords on representation from 1 to 2. And Section 3 sounds complicated here, but the programming and the reporting has to be done in accordance with HUD, and OLS struggled with this a little bit of how to word this. But the council will present their plans that they come up with to the governor, and those will then be transmitted to HUD. So they work that out. In Section 4, you see New Hampshire Housing Finance was added as one of the facilitators to that. They had been working with them already. Now they're just a named partner. And lastly, in the 2A down there on line 23, creating work groups to advise members on its duty. And most importantly, that was just caught this past week, on line 25, repealing the biennial reporting that New Hampshire Housing already has to do under the statute, because this will replace it and do more. So that's the amendment. Still just attaching it to DHHS, but cleaning up, doing some housekeeping with the amendment.
Senator, it looks like you've checked off all of the notes that I had on this from the hearing, so I applaud you on that. Do we have further discussion from the committee? All right, seeing none, we'll be voting on Amendment 749. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And Senator Reardon is moving on to pass as amended. I will second. Further discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move
Senator,
consent.
I was going to say that you had some concern that Senator Gray might have another amendment, but if he does, he can pull it off consent.
We ended up incorporating, Katie Easterly Marty had gone to him because she was thinking they would end up doing that in finance. Everything that he
Everything
had
is here.
is
All right.
incorporated. Yeah.
So we move consent. Did we get a second?
Second.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Senator Reardon, would you like to take this one out?
Yes.
motion to come out of exec?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, we are out of exec, and being 10:16, we will open the hearing on Senate Bill 186 and recognize, yeah, my head just went blank. Senator Ricciardi, thank you, I'm sorry.
Good morning again, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Denise Ricciardi, State Senator, District 9, representing 13 towns. Here today to introduce Senate Bill 186. Senate Bill 186 allows the Joint Legislative Historical Committee to accept and display a portrait of former Senator Jeb Bradley in the New Hampshire State House. Senator Bradley has been a tireless advocate for the people of New Hampshire from his early years in the House of Representatives to his time in U.S. Congress, and later as state senator and Senate president. He has helped shape policies that have improved the lives of countless Granite Staters. His work on issues like responsible budgeting, environmental conservation, and healthcare access has left a lasting mark on our state. Beyond his policy achievements, Senator Bradley has always been known for his ability to bring people together. He has always worked across party lines to find common sense solutions, proving that effective leadership is about collaboration and not division. As Senate President, he helped guide, like many others, through both challenges and opportunities, always with a focus on what is best for the state. I urge the committee to approve Senate Bill 186 and recognize Senator Jeb Bradley's incredible contributions to New Hampshire. And there is no fiscal note. It is completely fully funded.
Thank you, Senator. Is Senator Bradley in approval of having a photo on here for him? Have you spoken with him about it?
Yes, so I was going to do it as a surprise, but then someone let him know. So he called me and he said, "I love it." And I said, it's I don't know about the funding. He goes, "I'll pay for it." So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Senator, my head's going blank. Senator Altshuler. I don't know what.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Ricciardi. Agreed, Senator. Former Senate President Bradley has a long, storied career serving the citizens of New Hampshire. I'm just curious if anyone here, you maybe, know what the status is, because we've got, it seems like these photos, these pictures to honor our public servants are kind of stacking up. Does anyone know why, like why some of the other ones haven't been hung yet? Like, will this just go in the stack?
There's a process through Virginia in the visitor center of criteria. So that all has to get worked out, but I don't think, I actually, to be quite frank, was going to do it for Senator D'Alessandro too, because I felt he should have one. And I spoke to him, but we had I did the bill for both, but there was no funding for his, so I couldn't bring it forward because how would we pay for it? At least not now. But I do think people who've been here that long and legends, and as long as it's not massive, we have to be considerate of the wall space, but I think it's a nice way to honor that many, those many years of service.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just thinking we have follow-up. We have the lovely oil paintings of Senator Martha Fuller Clark and Sylvia Larson that are.
We're going to hear Sylvia Larson's next week.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but I can inquire and get back to you.
Thank you, Senator. Further questions?
Thanks.
All right, seeing none. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this bill? I've not seen anybody here, but I always ask. Looks like you're the one.
I know how to draw a crowd.
Right. All right, with that then, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 186. I'll take a motion to go into exec.
So, second.
Moved and seconded. You want to do this one right now?
Yep.
All right. Do we have a motion on Senate Bill 186? Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? On to pass, yes. You know what, I guess I was reading your mind, I knew what you meant. All right, seeing no discussion, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent or Okay, all right, do we have a motion for consent? Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye?
I'll go text it.
All right, you know what, I'll take this one out myself, how's that?
Thank you.
You're very welcome, thank you, Senator. Okay, we have to do, let me just make a note here. We need to do, we have two more FNs we have to do today, the two we heard today. So we're going backwards, we must stay going backwards. Senate Bill 302, I will move ought to pass. That is the one on the landfill background check. Landfill on the back, yes. Moved and seconded, do we have any discussion? I will say I appreciate the committee and hearing this bill again, and my hope is, as I said in my testimony, that I hope we've got it right this time. I think you sense the frustration with Director Wimsatt as well as the process as it's been ongoing for multiple years of trying to get this completed, and it sounds like we're very close. He may have some technical changes, but he seemed amenable to moving those in the House as we are up against the deadline here, so we will move it as is and let him make those technical corrections there.
Wait, I'm sorry. Should turn on. If he's close, would we not be able to put it in as floor
He
amendment?
doesn't have them ready. And I offered him to do a floor amendment or to do it in the House, and he sounded like he wanted to do it in the House because it gave him a little more time to make sure that he had the technical points right. So
Okay.
I'll entertain that if he comes back beforehand in time. We could certainly do it on the floor. But further discussion?
That is tomorrow, though, so that.
No, this won't be on tomorrow's, I don't think.
Oh, this one,
I don't
next
believe
week's.
they
Oh,
filled the
okay.
calendar. I think they'll be on.
It's not gonna be on an addendum.
I don't believe they have I'm not aware of an addendum calendar.
Okay.
So these FNs have got to go on tomorrow's, though, right?
No, the
No.
FNs have to be out of committee by tomorrow.
Committee, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I know, I made that same mistake.
I need a whiteboard.
That's okay.
to Keep up.
I only know this because I made the same mistake.
Yeah, I thought it was tomorrow too.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Move consent.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And I will take this one out as well. That's 302. The last one we have to do, that we have to do is 298.
298.
And I'm gonna move re-refer.
Second.
As soon as I finish writing this, I will speak. Listen, this bill's a very important topic, no question about it. And it's definitely something I'm glad they brought the bill, but there's some work that has to be done here, as you heard by nearly everyone that testified. They all want to see something happen, but they recognize that the language in the bill we have right now isn't exactly correct. So it's important that we make sure we keep this bill alive and we'll move forward. And I've made a commitment to many of the stakeholders that were here today that I would make sure that the conversation continued and this just wasn't, going into a hole to die. And so we will make sure that that happens, and I think it's a real important topic. So Senator Abard is fully aware that I was going to move it re-refer. He's fully supportive of that and appreciates the committee willing to put some time in and work on it. So, do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Move consent?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Senator Reardon, you want to take this one up?
Sure.
Just add again, 298. Kevin, by my record keeping, that is all of the FNs?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. 195, do we want to do that one? That was the advisory council. That's the other one we heard today. I'm thinking that would knock off all of today's bills.
Yes.
Move on to pass?
Second?
Second.
Do you want to move
Move,
Senator Waters'
yeah.
amendment?
Yeah, move amendment 2025-0410S.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Discussion on the amendment. I think Senator Waters did a good job in laying out why this amendment, the language change was necessary, and I appreciate his diligence in doing this. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and Senator Altshuler, when you want to move on to pass as amended?
Yes.
With Amendment 410S?
Second.
What he said.
Senator Reardon seconds. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Move consent.
Opposed?
Second.
Consent's moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Senator Altshuler, would you like to take this one out?
Sure. Okay.
Just can't do the Sylvia Larson one yet, we haven't had the hearing.
Right. We still have 5 hearings to go, huh?
I believe we do. So there were 9 bills that were brought forward in late filing, and we were the lucky recipient of 5 of them.
How many all total?
9.
We got more than half.
Yeah, we have 5 of them.
Rude.
So
Did
I-
you file those? Is
I-
it
I
all
only
there?
fi-
I
Who did
filed
this?
2 and one
Who
went.
did that?
I believe that came from upstairs.
Mhm.
Okay, we have left Senate Bill 189. I'm sorry, I'm working backwards again because that was where I was. That was Senator Prentice with the fetal death records. Didn't she want us to hold that for an amendment? I believe she did. I'm gonna pull
Let
my
me check,
folder.
check my folder.
I don't know why I remember that, but it seems like I remember her asking us to hold that.
Hold for an amendment. That's what I had too.
Needs amendment?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, not an FN though.
It's not an FN, we'll leave that alone. Excuse me. One 183 is your Peace Development Authority bill.
Yes.
I,
Did you speak with, well, do we have to open it? and talk about
no,
it?
we can have a discussion.
Okay, did you talk to Senator Ward about the amendment she sent to us all?
Yes, Senator Ward
Okay.
has an amendment. She was going to file as a late bill, and it
Yes.
was relative to the same topic as this
Yes.
bill. And I was asked if it would be okay if she could provide an amendment for us to consider rather than filing a late bill, and I said that would be fine.
Yes.
So that amendment does exist. We do not have to, I know I had offered an amendment myself.
Yeah.
And I was going to discuss with you
For
last
this?
week and you weren't here. We do not have to act on this today if you're not ready to.
Well, so, I'm sorry, what are these? Oh, okay, yes, thank you.
These are Greenland and New England letters.
Yes. So, why, I spoke with Senator Ward, 2 days ago, and actually met with her constituent who brought the concern to her, at length, and have started to dial back around with some of the other stakeholders, and I think that, given there are some legal issues happening right now in and around the PDA that, could probably use a little bit of time to work through the courts. And that the conversation that, we had tossed around a little bit earlier about possibly re-referring so that it gives it some time to do that. And I spoke with Senator Ward and said that while I understand and like her amendment, full disclosure, I think is some really, really, really good merits. However, it's germane in that it's about the same thing.
Yeah.
But also is, in my opinion, if I were sitting in your seat, deserves a hearing. Just, I thought, well, maybe maybe we should hold and have either a subcommittee work session, or it's dramatic enough that perhaps we should have a hearing. That was my thought, so.
We can.
We don't have to.
My conversation with Senator Ward, she was okay in having us just present it in exec session for consideration of the committee.
Okay.
And so it's, what's your pleasure with the underlying bill at this point? Do you want more time to work on this? We do not have to act on this today. We have a little time. If you want, we can also consider a re-refer if you want to allow longer period of time than what we have within the committee for getting bills out. Kevin, what's our date we have to have bills out of committee? March 20th. So you have about 2 weeks. If you'd like to wait the 2 weeks, or we can re-refer it, however, I'm willing to consider what your thoughts on this.
Yeah, if the committee is amenable, I think that since this bill has been introduced, people are starting to come out of the woodwork, and that a re-refer would probably be
Buy you more
best.
time than the 2 weeks I have to work.
Exactly, exactly, and it would allow more stakeholders who have identified themselves as stakeholders to participate in the process.
So are you making a re-referral motion?
I am going to move re-refer.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion on the motion of re-refer? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Would you like to put this on consent?
Oh, yeah, move consent.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we'll let you take this one out since it's yours.
What?
Senator, we've been busy in your absence.
All right, one of the school groups have been.
That's okay. We have actually finished all of the bills that we had to accept for today. The only one I believe we have left, Kevin, is Senate Bill 189 right now that we haven't heard yet, right?
Yes, I have heard 189.
Yeah, correct. I mean, I'm sorry. Besides the ones we haven't heard, is 189. I think I misspoke. We decided on the Peace Development Authority bill, Senator also has asked that we re-refer and give some more time because there's a lot more conversation coming up on it. And so the committee did vote to do that.
Okay. That was the one.
Jeff Bradley's painting, we did 4-0 on consent while Senator Ricciardi was here. Senate Bill 195, which is Senator Waters, the Youth Advisor, the New Hampshire Career Technical Advisory Council, we did a 4-0 on consent with it adopting his amendment. Senate Bill 298, which was the Sober Living House, we voted to re-refer, as we discussed before. And Senate Bill 302, which was my solid waste facilities, one we moved off to pass, with the understanding that the department was going to bring some technical corrections to the House. Yeah, all in consent. You okay with all those votes?
That's fine.
All right. I'll take a motion to go out of exec.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All right, we are out of exec. I'm going to schedule the remaining bills that we have left for next Wednesday. And
Next one.
next Wednesday?
All of them?
I believe it's 5, right? Yeah, most of them, I think, actually, let me check on that. I think I'm going to. That's my intent right now. I need to check on a couple. But we will be here, we should be here next week. I don't have a calendar in front of me, I'm sorry. This is the, yeah, so we have 2 weeks essentially to get bills out of committee. Yeah, so we'll schedule, I believe, all of them next week, and if we can exec them all next week, we would have nothing for the following week, and you could have a day off. But we'll have to see how that goes. All right. Any further business anyone wants to discuss before we adjourn? All right, seeing none, we are done for today. Thank you. Maybe got even earlier than I thought.
Wow, we sure did.